Thank you for listening to the Tattness podcast on the Tattness Co. Network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A Mercedes kind of sentiment, luxury, and trust in me to honor the free we all should be. It seems my sundial burst into yin and yang, right and left me.
What's cracking? It's your boy Tattness. I've been blessed with an awesome guest on this show yet again. Stephen Perkins. You may know him from being the drummer for Jane's Addiction. He's played drums for Nine Inch Nails. And a little cool fact that I didn't really realize until recently when I did my research is he was the drummer for the band that was in the movie Encino Man, which is one of my favorite movies that, you know, where Pauly Shore is concerned. I know, don't judge me, you miserable dicks. I'm fucking with y'all. But I don't know, I love that movie. I saw it in the theater as a kid, and I just loved it. So, talking to Steven was super cool, man. I think you guys are going to dig this guest. He was actually fascinating. Just a chill guy, really cool to talk to. And I'll be hanging with him this December over in Montreal, so that'll be awesome. Come check it out if you can. Here it is, man. Steven motherfucking Perkins. What's up, brother?
Well, it's Friday afternoon in Los Angeles, and trying to figure out the weekend. It was 40 years ago this weekend I did my first public drum solo at my bar mitzvah, 1980. And, you know, I was playing for about 3 years prior to my bar mitzvah and mostly on pillows. And I finally got a snare drum at 12 years old, and all of a sudden I learned how the surface of a pillow was quite different than a drum head.
Yeah.
And then I got on a drum set, and then all of a sudden I had bass drum and tom-tom and cymbals. And so there's all these new rebirth in drumming for me, from the pillow to the snare drum to the drum set, and then to play with other people. And then you had to learn how to, you know, bring the volume up and down with dynamics, and you learned how to listen to other people.
Right.
And I think that is still so important in music, because, you know, the jazz drummer was having conversations with the piano and the bass and the saxophone. The Motown drummer really took some of that conversation away and just kept a pulse.
Right.
And then you had rock and roll, and I think that had both of that you had Mitch Mitchell and Ginger Baker and Ringo and Charlie. And these cats were very aware of the conversation, but also to make sure everybody was moving their body like a Motown. They were actually doing Motown songs in their set. So, you know, they realized the power of that pulse, but also meeting new people and having conversation. And I still enjoy meeting new musicians. And, you know, Scott Page, who plays saxophone, it's been great to play with him, because as a youngster, I couldn't find anybody that played saxophone or trumpet or even piano. It was really, I was surrounded by rock and roll, which I love.
He was just on my show last night.
Yeah, he's fantastic musician, a great soul. He's always looking into the future,
right?
And the marriage of technology and humanity.
He was brilliant.
Yeah, you know, and even when New Wave came out in, you know, late 70s, I didn't love the drum machine, but I loved the sounds.
Right.
But I was always searching out New Wave music that had real drummers, like B-52s, The Cars, Missing Persons with Terry Bozzio. There was New Wave happening that had real drummers in it. So there was this understanding that the sound of the drum and that pulse was important, but also I cannot get away from hearing a personality. I love the personality drummer.
I love that you said that.
You know, and I never got to meet Keith Moon, but I think I know him through his drumming.
Right, and I love that you said that, because I think of New Order, and I'm like, you can't argue with Blue Monday, but at the same time, that drumming, as badass as it sounds, it does not compare to a drummer that just doing it organically.
You can back it up a little, go to Joy Division. It's the same drummer playing a drum set with electric pads, etc. But such interesting patterns. And, you know, me and Dave Navarro were so infatuated with Sabbath and Maiden and Slayer, because these guys were hot shots and they always were throwing fireworks in their instruments. Right. And then when you look at Bauhaus and Joy Division and Echo and the Bunnymen, Susie, there was less fireworks, but these really creative drum parts and musical parts, and very intelligent, you know? So I think that's really a great marriage when you have someone who can use their chops, but only does it when they need to.
Right.
And, you know, as a kid, I wanted to machine gun every moment. And now as I'm turning 53 in a couple weeks, I realize, you know, of course, you play for the song and you throw those fireworks where they're needed for those special events. And it's a combination of exciting, you know, I guess you can say surprises. How do you surprise the listener? And also, how do you make them feel comfortable so they don't have to feel like, you know, they're on edge, like a math problem?
Right. You know, I mean, shit, you and I made our name for ourselves in completely different ways. I love drumming. I love what you do. I opted to get punched in the face for a living, and that's how I got known all over the damn world. I think you got the better deal on that. But
go ahead.
I get to sit across from legends now and speak to them. I mean, yesterday, Kenny Olson and I became like immediate brothers. He's like, you're my brother from this point on. Give me your number. We're doing this, this, and this. I'm like, consider me down. And then later in the day, you know, Scott Page was on my show. And then today it was Kenny Lee, you know, Lewis, and then you. And it's like, shit, what happened?
It's fantastic because musicians and artists and filmmakers, and they just want to talk about being creative.
Right.
And, you know, it's, as a drummer, I always look at a school of fish or a flock of birds. And how do I get people to do that? And, you know, Jerry Garcia said it when he flew into Woodstock. You usually don't get that many people together unless it's a battlefield.
Right.
But music can do that. And if you're watching a Rage Against the Machine concert and everyone's jumping up together, you've got that school of fish. You've got the, you know, you've got it. And so there's a great responsibility that musicians have, especially for the big shows.
Well, yeah,
to keep everybody engaged and somehow to unite everybody in this big unit, but still have independence somehow.
Right. And it's so important. And to your credit, like what you were saying, to your point of playing with different musicians, you have to learn them.
Yeah.
And, you know, you play with 9 Inch Nails, and I'm like, shit, Trent is, you know, like he's somebody that does that on a regular basis. It's always somebody new.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
How was that for you to try to, on your end of the spectrum? Like, there's got to be some, like as an artist, I know, like I draw and shit. I was a tattoo artist, hence the nickname and all that crap. So there's always that level of pressure, I think, as an artist we put on ourselves.
Absolutely.
So, like,
well, you know, it is about growing, but also about, I guess, in a sense, you want to rise to the occasion.
Right.
And this is the moment, you know. And I love doing small gigs because everyone in the building is looking right at you. But I love the big gigs because there's 10 other bands on the side of the stage watching, right. And that competitive spirit is great for the audience. And then there's people 100 yards away in a bungee jump or a Ferris wheel, and they can't get away. They can't actually see what the band's doing, but they can't get away from the sound and the drums. So you've got them. They can't get away, you know. And I think Trent and 9 Inch Nails played with Jane's in 1989 and 1990, and then a little Palooza. So there was a long friendship going on, and you know, we were both on the quest to be creative and sensitive, but also original, and somehow bring what he grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Los Angeles, to bring that environment to the table. You know, if someone's from Miami, hopefully they sound very different if they were growing up in Seattle.
Right.
You know, you take your experiences, you bring it to the table, and just like Jane's Addiction, you know, we all four had different record collections. We had different friends. We dressed different. And I think that's what made the eclectic sound, and
Absolutely.
playing with Infectious Grooves and Porno for Pyros and Tommy Lee's Methods of Mayhem. And now playing with Kenny and Scott with the, Think EXP. We all grew up in different places and we had different experiences, but when we get on stage, we can bring that personal experience and join forces. And there's something very magical. I mean, it would be so hard to be a novelist and sit alone and write alone.
Right.
Like I said earlier, I'm a tennis player. I need to rally with somebody.
Right.
And if you're a really great tennis player, you got to play with someone else who can return your serve, because then you're not going to have any fun.
Right.
So you got to get together with other people that are similar as far as the talent and the dedication. But then again, hopefully they're all coming from different places as far as what they love and what inspires them. And, the greatest musicians, if you think about Jimi Hendrix, I mean, he just crossed so many lines. And when he went to England, Clapton and Beck and Page were like, what just happened? How is this guy just naturally doing this? But, he didn't, it may have been competitive, but they were all inspired. And that is definitely important, I think, in the scene is we all are at the same camp, but we have different tents, so we sleep separately.
Right.
But then again, we get together at the campfire and we trade ideas and laughter and then go back to our respective tents and take a nap,
Right. And that's just it, right? Everyone brings something to the table that only they can bring.
Yeah, exactly.
And, just recently, literally I had to cap off Kenny Lee Lewis and be like, dude, I got a show to do now. And, like, it's not every day you tell someone from the Steve Miller Band, like, I would love to talk to you more, but you got to shut the fuck up because I got a show to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's like, he tried to downplay his part as like, Steve Miller is the one that did all the shit. No, dude, you had your hand in it and you're selling yourself short. I love the humble aspect, but you're doing yourself a disservice by acting like you did not contribute to what we all heard. And, and
absolutely, man. I mean,
like every artist is due their credit.
Yeah. And then there's always these different chapters. And if you can look at a long career of anybody, even if the music somehow goes together, because maybe someone who doesn't understand the differences of how, a musician grows, but we know the difference. They grow, they get better, and they also have more stories to tell. And, because if you think about rock and roll in the 50s, it was about rocking around the clock and splish splash in the bath,
Right.
And everybody was celebrating. But in England, they were still living in post WW2 and their town was a mess. And you can hear that in the music.
Right.
And it really wasn't until Vietnam when American music got a real taste of darkness with the Doors and the Grateful Dead. And there was something, their best friends were being shipped out and never coming back. And it wasn't about rocking around the clock and splashing in the bath.
Right.
They were singing about Machine Gun and the end,
Right.
And there was something magical. Obviously, you don't want darkness, but there is, like an M.C. Escher painting, the white duck and the black duck, they go together. And it's a pattern that goes right off the page, but you need one, you need the other.
Exactly. At the end of the day, as human beings, we can all relate to both aspects. I think. Exactly. Like, you can't bullshit and say, "Oh, my life is Care Bears 24/7." No, bullshit. Like,
it's really, and it's good to have a sense of humor and laugh at the problems of life.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you can't ignore them. And I think my goal is like, a happy moment goes so quickly, but the dark moments take such a long time to get through. I want to switch that. I want to enjoy the happy moments and let those go by slowly and let those dark moments, just a flash, and that's, I think, a goal of mine is to enjoy the good stuff and let it stretch out, because happiness is so quick and so fleeting, and sadness is so deep and it changes your whole perspective. And we can't stop that, but there is a way to recognize the power of both sides,
Yeah, and I think it's about perspective.
I mean, Kenny Lee and I just talked about, he just lost a sister.
Oh,
And I was like, man, I'm really sorry to hear that. My grandfather who raised me just passed recently.
oh,
And
sorry, man.
thanks, man. And in 2018, I lost my son,
Oh
who,
shit.
you know, um, they gave him 2 weeks. They gave him 2 weeks to live because he had a terminal condition that's super rare. And he gave me 2 years. 9 days after he turned 2 years old, he decided on his terms his fight was over. And I'm like, that is the most badass child. Yeah,
Wow.
you know,
That's deep, bro. That's intense. I mean, there's, the joy you get by having a child and getting to know someone, and then the pain you get from losing. And, my brother died the same week that the Porno for Pyros record came out. And we were on top of the world. And my brother died out of the blue, sudden death, a heart attack, basically, cardiomyopathy.
sorry to
But
hear that.
he sang on Pets. We'll make great pets. He sang backup. So
Fuck.
I can go visit that song at any time. Even though it came out that week that he went, it was a song that people loved, and the lyrics were about aliens coming to the earth and taking over. And my brother would love that story. He loved those lyrics.
Right.
So just like you look at the power that your son and the control your son had of his own destiny.
Right.
And I can think we all have that, and it's not when you go, it's what you leave behind.
Exactly.
We all, Mozart and Beethoven and Jimi Hendrix, we all go, but we can still enjoy their memory and their music,
Exactly. And like they just did a documentary of my crazy ass life and all this crazy shit. And I'm glad that's over. There's no camera on my face all the time anymore. But, I'm grateful. And,
Yeah.
but then getting into at that point where I talked about his life, or when they talked about how he passed. My show's producer to this day, even though she was there from day one with the story, she was there for me when he passed. Every damn time she sees that DVD now, because it just released, cries every time it hits that part. And I'm like, you should know by now. You've seen this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's not suffering anymore.
Yeah.
His condition was like seizures all the time.
Oh, fuck.
And at 2 years old, that poor little body just gets so drained. And one day, at the worst, he had about 60 seizures from the start of the day till they got him to the hospital. They did the brain scan and saw he had about 60, 61 seizures in that day.
My God.
And he just troopered through until the next year. And then he decided 9 days after he turned 2 years old, he was done. And because he had a feeding tube in his belly and he started to reject feeds. So they realized, okay, he's deciding he's done. We'll just give him morphine. And the next morning, he just didn't wake up and he kind of went peacefully. So
absolutely. I mean, and he's got a beautiful father.
Oh, thank you, brother.
And that's what I try to be to my friends, my family, a positive force. But like you said, you can't fake it. You got to be real.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to, like a drummer in high school, my friends would bring, a bag of weed and a 6-pack. I'd bring a bongo and a maraca, because that's how I got people to loosen up. It was like my social lubricator was drums. And I still feel that way because I can practice all day, but when someone reacts to what I do, that turns me on. That I can see either band members or audience members or anybody just moving or smiling because I play. That just gives me the food to carry on,
Right, and we talked about that where with Kenny Lee and whatnot. He was like, we were talking about art, and I said it's kind of like I do a lot of crazy like drawing and shit because he was like, as an MMA fighter, because you came from an abusive home, it makes sense that you became an MMA fighter. I said, no, here's where it gets weird, because I became an MMA fighter because it made sense, because I didn't feel pain anymore after a certain point. But it's not that I like to hurt people. It's I was hurt so many times that I don't feel it anymore. It doesn't register with me. I don't like to hurt people, but I view it as it's a sport. It's kind of it's tactical. It's
Absolutely.
it's not about hurting people. It's more problem solving. You want to hurt
Yeah,
me.
yeah. It's
I want to
strategies.
stop you,
Yeah,
but I don't want to like ruin your life. I don't want to hurt
absolutely,
you.
man. Well,
So
it's that puzzle, because you can't have the one piece if another one doesn't fit there,
right.
and
So I said, for me though, at 6 years old, when to escape the abuse, for me it was art. I got into drawing, and now people trip shit over like my art, and I'm like, I don't have an ego. I don't feel like I'm all that great, whatever. But they're like, dude, you could sell this shit, and I'm like, I just do it for therapy. I don't think I'm
yeah,
very good, but
it's
guys,
releasing that. Either is it angels or demons, or it doesn't really matter.
right?
It's
It's
releasing.
what,
you
but
know.
it'll change. Like sometimes, like horror art. Um,
Hey, there you are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes it's horror art, like because I love 80s horror movies, like Nightmare on Elm Street, shit like that. I'm
yeah,
friends with some people from the fucking movies, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
like, but usually it's just nostalgia. Sometimes I'll do Ninja Turtle stuff or whatever 80s shit, whatever. It's like whatever I'm in the mood for, and I'll just do it because it mellows me out.
Absolutely.
And then people are like, "Oh, you should sell this." And like, I give it away. Like, if you want it, it's yours. I don't take your money. I don't need it. It's
Yeah, it's so hard for me to come up with a price when someone says, "Can you play on my record? How much?"
right,
I don't know, man. I'll play drums. I want to play drums. I mean, come on. I don't want to break your bank. Of course, I want to feed my kid, but
right.
I don't know how to price that. I
But
mean,
you get
come
it.
on.
It's really weird because I'm like, I feel like any amount is too much, and I'm
Yeah,
like, I just
exactly.
did it because it's fun, and it's like if it means that much to you, it's yours. But in your case, it's a career. You have to put a price tag on
Yeah, I mean, I think about what artists go through and what was happening outside their door, because sometimes it's hard to find inspiration, especially with the last 120 days of COVID.
it.
It's hard to get inspired, but who knows what Dali or Picasso, what was going outside their door, Frida, what was going on inside her body, because her body was a wreck, but she put it on a canvas, and Salvador Dali could paint like Rembrandt, but he didn't. He put a rooster coming out of the guy's eye. Why? I don't know why, but he was broken. He was a broken person, and then he put it on canvas, and we were able to not have realism but surrealism and get away from real life.
Right.
And Jane's Addiction would always write songs around Perry's poems. We didn't have intro, verse, chorus, guitar solo, bridge, verse, chorus, out. We had a poem. And a song like Stop, there's no chorus. There's two verses, a guitar solo, and then a vocal breakdown. And there it is, I mean, it was a poem about the world going too fast and about the environment imploding. And so it was really, like you said, expression. And it's, and it's different today than it was 20 years ago, because we're different people, and the music we write or the art we produce, as a youngster, I wanted to replicate Zeppelin and John Bonham and all the great drummers. I realized I couldn't, because I didn't grow up in England. I didn't, I didn't have their life, so
Right.
how could I replicate their life? It's impossible. Or, the great Neil Peart or Phil Collins or anybody that was like top notch. I could never replicate. I can only imitate. And then I thought, how do I find this homegrown sound? And I just looked around and looked at my friends and my experiences and my failures and successes. And then I had a sound, my own sound, because I was following my own heart, and
Right.
it's hard to, as an artist, because you do grow up looking at the greats thinking, how could I raise to that level? But that's good, because it helps you get out of your head and helps you with your craft, but you don't want to imitate over and over. You can't.
Exactly. And like Kenny Lee Miller, like Kenny was talking about Kenny Lee Lewis was talking to me about like he's like you hit it on the head. He's like, I want to be a writer. I don't really want. He's like, when I got into being a musician and whatever, it's like, fuck, what did I do? I'm like, you get it, because I said when I became a tattoo artist, I was like, I don't want to fucking do this anymore immediately. Because all of a sudden you got 90-some best friends that you didn't know you had.
Yeah.
For nothing. But then more importantly, it's like art cannot be forced. Like my best work is when I'm really in the mood. Like I have to get it out of my system. I have to do some art. But when it's like a job now,
Yeah.
not what I enjoy anymore. So it's like, as a musician, does that happen for you where you're like, I don't want to do this shit? And then it's like you draw that like writer's block kind of deal, or is it just?
Yeah, I mean, to me, luckily, a drummer has this athletic connection, this romance with hitting something and using your body and all the limbs. So even if you don't feel creative, you could
bang on shit.
You can go deep and feel like an athlete, and work on your, it's about endurance and it's about posture and strength. And it's not always about being the ballet, the ballerina with the drumstick, even though that's quite important to be able to be musical and sensitive. But sometimes you just want to hit something. And when I go practice, sometimes I'll work on the rudiments, the stuff I learned when I was 10, hitting a pillow, left, right, left, right, left. Sometimes I'll just get creative and use brushes or mallets and try to explore the drum and the cymbal, see what it brings to me or I can bring to it. And then sometimes I'll put a James Brown record on and go, I'm going to get funky for the next hour and a half and try to feel this funk, because I wasn't a very, growing up, I had like 5 or 6 records, a Sabbath, a Beatles, a Jackson 5, you had the same records over and over. It wasn't until I had a little money I was able to go record shopping and explore African and Latin and Indian rhythms and go, wow, these rhythms are just as important as a good old Zeppelin record. So there was, you do get that kind of, like you say, a writer's block if you're trying to be creative all the time. But then again, you can always go into this kind of athletic, endurance contest with yourself and say, okay, how many times can I go and just till it hurts, and then after that, you do feel creative because you got past it, you broke free,
See,
so I'm lucky as a drummer to have that athletic, I guess you can say the athlete in me is there, because it almost feels like you're hitting a home run when you have people dance to your drum beat. People are fucking happy.
Right?
And we did it. We did it.
Your answer is so much better than mine, because I played my fair share of drums like for fun and like in like bands growing up and whatever. And people would be like, how do you do it? How do you get that energy and do this shit even if you don't want to? And I just bullshit. I'm like, like you had this great answer. I'm like, sometimes when I don't feel like it, it's just like the Contra code from old NES.
Yeah.
Fucking hit buttons. Just pretend you know what you're doing, or you feel like it, or whatever. Yeah. But that's bullshit. I mean, I just make shit up.
What's great about drummers too, I don't have to like the guy's music to appreciate what he does on the drum kit.
Right.
And then the music grows on me. I mean, there was a while when metal wasn't important, and then I heard Pantera, and I was like, I love Vinnie Paul. I gotta listen to everything he does. And then the music seeped in, and then Slipknot.
Yeah,
I love Joey, and then all of a sudden the music started seeping in. But it was the drum parts that attracted me. So it was like that. It was like watching a great basketball player do these tricks, or a skateboarder. You've never seen anybody do that before, and maybe I didn't want to do that, or maybe I can try to, but wow, look what they're doing, man.
Right, and my God, losing Vinny was just heartbreaking.
I cannot believe the brothers are gone, man.
It's so crazy, like, to lose them both.
Nuts. It's nuts. And they're
hard enough.
Really sweet, down-to-earth guys that loved rock and roll.
Sweetest people. And
they love rock and roll music, you know?
right. And I remember being late to the game for college. I was about 31 when I went to college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because my life was so fucked up that like even getting to college was an accomplishment.
Yeah.
You know, dropping out of high school, you know, to support myself you know, before finishing high school and shit. And then still, in spite of that, going to college. And now here I am talking to legends and shit. It's fucking unreal. But in college, hearing about Joey being dismissed from Slipknot, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, no. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And obviously, I still, to this day, like, I know people from the band or whatever, but I don't know the details. I don't ask. I don't fucking say shit because it's not my business.
Yeah.
I know the legal shit that went on, and I don't dare, you know, compromise anything. It's just, it's like really unfortunate.
Yeah. There's when you see a unit that works together, or a team, and basketball, hockey, soccer, whatever, and a team, and then someone changes. It doesn't mean it's better or worse, but
Right.
there's something different, and different's okay. I'm not afraid of change, but sometimes, you know, you got to respect Chili Peppers and Metallica. They lose band members and they continue because the friendship is deep, very deep. And I, you know, Jane's Addiction always had a problem staying together because if the friendships weren't really hot, we felt like we were a fraud. We were doing it. We couldn't do it for the money. We had to do it for the music. And that's why we broke up so many times, because even though the money was on the table, we weren't enjoying the hang.
Right.
So what's the point? You know, it's not about the payday. So, you know, that's why when the band does play, there's four guys that love each other and want to make the music. 3, 4, smash. Right. You know, and that's important. And it's really not about of course, it's nice to get paid for the music and the art, but it's not about that. And that's why Jane's Addiction has all these peaks and valleys in the work ethic. You know, we do it when we need each other, not the money.
I love that you said that, because then you look at bands like Mudbee. The be all end all of that band was the label and the bottom lines. And it's like, we don't enjoy this anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got Hell Yeah, where Vinnie Paul found his niche because it was kind of like, you know, he thought he'd never do this shit again.
That's right.
And then you have this group of people, gung-ho, no attitudes, no egos, reach out to him multiple times and be like, we're not doing this without you.
That's right.
And he's like, man, I appreciate the acknowledgement. I appreciate the offer, but I just don't think I'm ready to get back in the music industry. I know I will someday, but I just don't see myself doing it. And they're like, no, fuck that. We're calling him again. And they called him again. And he even said, they caught me at the right night. I was blasting some Kiss, drinking a whole lot of vodka. And I was like, fuck it. Why not?
Let's do it. You know, let's do it for Dimebag. He's going to do
it.
Right.
So he said the next.
That's what happened when my brother passed. The record came out. We had a 4-month, 6-month tour booked. And everyone's like, do you want to stay home? I'm like, no, I don't want to bring bad news. Everyone's waiting for the next 6 months to go tour. Our audience, the crew, the rest of the band members. My brother wants me to go play drums, not stay home. And, you know, I didn't have much time to mourn, but I got time to play and travel and meet people. And so there was that healing. But, you know, you got to look into yourself. What's right for you? Can you give it without regret?
Right.
You know? And I really love hitting the drum, like you said. I get to hit something.
Right.
And then I see people react, you know, and I get the yayas out by hitting something and seeing people move their body, and it's just this constant energy exchange. And that's what I am missing, that in the last 100 days is being here at the home studio is wonderful, and getting different files sent to me via email and then putting it into my Pro Tools and then sending it back. It's satisfying, but I miss the dance, man. I miss the dance.
Like, it's that human connection, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, For me, my success levels took off more so, I think, when my son, it was kind of known it wasn't going so hot. And I was like, man, just like every other aspect of your life, because my life was so fucked up, you
Mm.
feel sorry for yourself or you could do something. And I remembered something that hit me so fucking hard before he passed. And then when he passed, it stuck with me more. When, you know, Paul Gray from Slipknot passed.
Of course.
And Corey Taylor kind of told me, like, Vinnie Paul told him, you got to live for two now. You can feel sorry for yourself or you can live for two, because now you got to experience shit for him as well that he missed out on. And that stuck with me so much. That's
Absolutely.
I got to experience everything from my son in honor of him and respect him. So immediately before he even passed, when I left Toronto because I'm in Canada.
Right.
I left Toronto and I moved out to Nova Scotia for like kind of a more mellow life. But immediately I used my success and I was like, in honor of my son, because of his condition, even though he's alive at the time, he could not appreciate toys, things of that nature. His brain would not allow it. The second I moved out here, I started to use my success to help families that are less fortunate where they could not afford to give their children a Christmas.
Wow.
And there's a whole like weird thing where when I was 15, I left an abusive home and I lived on the streets. And I was at a 7-Eleven at like 5 a.m. just trying to get warm for a couple minutes, not draw attention to myself, not loiter, whatever. And looking at magazines, and this RV pulls up and this old guy gets out and he pumps the gas. His older wife comes in, pays for her shit, pays for the gas, whatever. It's in my documentary about my crazy ass life, where she goes up, pays for everything. She sees me and I'm like, oh, fuck. You know, I'm 15. You have every right to look at me and be like, this is a troublemaking piece of garbage or drug dealer or whatever the fuck, right? Out here at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, something's not right. She goes up, pays for her shit. She gets a coffee, whatever, pays for her shit. Comes up to me, hands me this $2 coffee and a $5 bill and says, take care of yourself. She just knew. And I'm like, you had every reason to judge me negatively, but instead you were like, this kid's in trouble.
Yeah.
And that gesture meant everything to me. That was a $7 gesture that meant everything to me. 20 some years later, it never left my mind. And it became my rule of 7. So when I moved out here, I found 7 families that needed help, that could not give their children a Christmas. Each child I bought 7 brand new gifts for. I spent about $7,000 probably.
Yeah, I love the 7, man. I love it.
You know what I mean? And you know, and I gave them my producer loved the idea for my show, and she's like, I'm a baker. Like I was like, make cookies then, and give them a tin of cookies for the family. And I gave them a card saying, look, we all go through hard times, and like there's no shame in needing help at all.
Absolutely, man.
So
that's what we're the village. We're the village of people helping each other.
Right. So someone helped me when I had nothing and they had no reason to. So like, don't ever sweat that I helped you. Don't feel bad. Don't feel like you failed as parents. Nothing like that. It's like, we all need help sometimes. That's all I said was we all need help sometimes. It's nothing, you know what I mean? And let them.
And the people that if the grass is always greener. Whoa, they've got a cush life and they got this, they got that. Who knows the demons they're dealing with? Who knows?
Right. You
You
know,
know, and then you see a family that doesn't have much, but they're happy and they enjoy each other. You're like, wow, you
right?
know what? You know,
Exactly. And I did it in honor of my son. And then the year after I started that tradition, I lost my son. But I was like, I'm doing this every year for him, whether he's here or not. So every year it's no different.
that's
And
beautiful. Man.
the biggest struggle is actually finding people that are willing to admit they need help.
Yeah,
That's why I don't ask them. I ask if you know of a family that needs help, but they don't want to come out and be like, I need help. Because it hurts
absolutely.
their pride, or they
Of
feel
course.
like they're going to be viewed as like scam artists or whatever. Like, give
Right.
me,
There's too many layers behind them just
right.
admitting they need help.
So,
You know, tomorrow morning I'm doing a drum circle for the multiple sclerosis community, the MS community. I've done about 15 of them. And my dad had MS, and I've got some friends in my circle that have it. And so I just want to gather people and play the drum and let them hit something, and I can lead the way. And it's something they look forward to, but it's something that feels good for me to
right.
give and make people happy. And they're looking forward to tomorrow morning, and I'm looking forward to it. And it happens every month. And who knows what happens after we get off the Zoom drum jam. I'm not sure what their life is, but I do know that hour together is not me just giving, it's me getting.
Right.
I'm getting and giving, and it feels good for everyone involved. And it doesn't take just like the relativity. It goes by so quick, that hour. You know, I was explaining to my son, if you're kissing a girl for 10 seconds, it goes by fast. But if you're burning your finger for 10 seconds, it takes
Like
forever.
eternity.
You know?
Right.
So it's all relative, what you do with your time and what you do for people. And if you can make this time happy, a great day goes by fast and a shitty day goes by slow. And there's a reason for that, you know, because you need to spread happiness to let people, you know, glide.
Right. You know?
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I mean, it's like, to this day, I'm like, how the fuck am I known all over the world when I spent a lifetime being told, like, first 15 years of my life before I left home, told you'll never be shit. You know, it's like I didn't know my mother growing up because she was treated like garbage. She bailed, and so it's a whole thing where it's like now I guess my old man's bitter because of that. So he fucking lets me know like I ain't shit. Constant reminder of her, I suppose, and whatever. A lot of abusive bullshit. And you know, I tell people, I'm like, it's like it came down to two words: what if? What if everything you were told is bullshit and you just try? What if you just try to, you know, better yourself and go for it?
Yeah.
What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And like I said to fucking Kenny Lee Lewis, I'm like, man, it came down to like I became a motivational speaker at high schools when I dropped out of fucking high school just to support myself to not live on the streets anymore. And now I'm at high schools telling people my perspective that you need to understand is that from a toddler perspective, on the average, a human being as a toddler falls between 50 to 150 times while learning how to walk. But not once did they ever say, maybe walking is not for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So at what point did you let the world or let outside influences say to you, not everything is attainable?
Absolutely, man. Good point.
You know what I'm saying? Like we gotta
Yeah.
get perspective back.
Actually, you know, success feels good, but failure, you grow.
Learn.
Exactly.
Nobody fucking goes anywhere without all sorts of failure.
Yeah.
If I had a
And
dollar,
it's painful when it doesn't go your way, but that's just because you expected something to go that direction. It doesn't mean it wasn't meant to be. It doesn't mean it went the wrong way. It wasn't what you expected, but it still is very important
Right.
part of life. And like you said, you fall down when you're learning how to walk, or you fall off the bike when you learn how to ride.
Right.
Or, you know, you drop the stick when everyone's waiting for your drum solo. You're like, fuck. Oh, shit, you know?
I will stand in front of a high school full of students, and I'll say, okay, any of you that think you know everything, name one person that has never failed.
Yeah.
That is successful today that has never failed a damn thing. I'll wait. I'll wait. You can, if you think you know everything, name somebody, and I'll tell you how they failed. Not a fucking hand goes up.
Yeah, man.
So what
You
makes
need to think about the great artists that are never, you know, recognized until they're dead.
Right. Right.
Or they never get recognized ever.
Right.
Yeah, but they still are great musicians and great
Brilliant.
artists. You know, it happens. And you know, sometimes when the crap gets sold and people buy it, you're like, why is that music or that film so popular when it's got nothing to offer? But maybe there's something there that we don't see that's helping other people grow, you know.
Right.
It might not turn me on to hear that or read that, but someone else needs it, you know?
Right. And it could be something that you just can't relate to because it's not your experience. But
Yeah.
somebody else that they're going through it at that moment and it's saving their life. We don't even know.
Absolutely. You know, and that's what's great about live music is people are meeting each other during the show. They're you know, maybe they're meeting their next wife, you know, their next friend. And, you know, all you're doing is playing music, and that's what you think's the most important thing to do. But they're in there enjoying their life, and you're the background.
Right.
You know, so I'm thinking I'm the foreground. Like, no, man, you're just for the music. I'm there to meet my buddies, you know?
You
So
know,
we all have a different reason to be there.
right. So I tell all these high school students, I'm like, if you can name somebody that you idolize that has never fucking failed along the way, put your hand up and tell me, and I'll correct you.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a hand goes up. So then my point is exactly, not a hand goes up. So what makes them better than all you?
Yeah.
What makes them different than you where you can't accomplish what you want to do if you care enough? Just don't be one of the many people that I know that sit on their ass and say, one day it'll happen for me. One day it'll happen for me. And they're the most talented people. And it's like, really? Will it? Okay, well, while you sit on your couch and wait for yourself to be discovered, as talented as you are, I'm just, while you wait for it to happen for you, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to make it happen if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
You know, like.
I remember, I can't recall, maybe I was 14, 15 when I heard The Who, Bob O'Reilly. They're all wasted. And I was like, that's not about getting high. That's about wasting your life and not doing anything.
Exactly.
Don't sit on the couch and watch other people make it. You make it, and whatever it is you want to make it. Don't be a wasted soul.
Right.
You know?
You know.
And if people are like, no, it's about getting high and getting wasted. No, man, it's about losing your opportunity and wasting your opportunities.
I feel like that's the saddest part of art is sometimes people take it way too literal. They take it at face value as what seems literal and what relates to, you know, the masses.
Yeah.
And it's like people that don't do drugs will take it as it's about being wasted, or people that don't drink, you know, and it's like, no, dude, dig a little deeper.
Yeah, it was always great when Perry would bring a poem or lyric to the table. I would read it and have my own interpretation, but then I had the opportunity to ask the guy that wrote it.
Right.
And he had a song called Had a Dad. And I know his dad kicked him out. And I was like, oh, it's about your dad? He's like, no, man, it's about God. Had a dad, big and strong. I turned around, now he's gone. Where's God, man? And I was like, I didn't know it was about God. I was, 17 when I read the lyric. I thought it was about his personal experience with his dad. He's like, sure, we'll throw that in there, but it's about everybody, looking for guidance and this fake thing of religion about money and gathering. But where's the God? Where's that? You have to look for it. You have to find it inside your soul. And I remember, I think it was Jimmy Page said, Houses of the Holy is about your own body. Our bodies are the house of the holy. Look inside, man. It's there. Just wake it up.
That's
And so
heavy.
it is about, like you said, going deeper in that onion. There's layers and layers. It's not the outside layer that's the unedible layer. It's the
Right.
deeper layer,
Right. And I don't know if it takes somebody that is like inclined in some form of art to get that, or if it's laziness where people just take everything at face value. I like to think it's not. I like to give people more credit than that.
Yeah.
To a degree, I really don't know if it's just like people take what they can relate to and maybe focus on. And then there's so many musicians that I've known over the years. Like you look at John Davis from Korn, that said, like, I don't write the fucking lyrics in my sleeves because I don't want people to sit there mindlessly just staring and reading. I want them to interpret,
Yeah.
And if you take everything, away from them and tell them this is what it means, it might not save that life. It might, it might mean something completely different to someone else.
Absolutely.
And they take from it what it means to them, and it helps them through a tough time. If you be like, no, that's totally not what I was talking about, then they're like, oh, well, that means nothing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't relate to what you were talking about.
Right.
And there is something, especially with poems and lyrics, they wrote it in the moment, but it's timeless. A song written in 1890 or 1990 or 2090, it's still about, humanity and emotion and relationships and how to marry those things and also have tolerance and curiosity in other people.
Yeah.
And to be curious about other people and how they live and how they get through life, and not be thinking your way and is that, or my way is the only way. No.
Right.
And there is beautiful relationships and families that live completely different than us.
Right. And why take that away? If it means something to somebody, why take it away from anybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to clarify, like, oh, well, this is what I was talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That was interesting for me to read Perry's lyrics and have my own reasoning, and then ask the guy that wrote it, and he, something different. Doesn't mean I feel the way he does, but it's interesting that that's where he was coming from. Right. And that always helps in writing a drum part to be sensitive to the lyric, the subject, and to not just the bass line and the guitar riff and the tempo, but what are we talking about here?
Right. Then you can kind of put yourself more into it.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Movie-wise, I guess you've had some experience.
I mean, I like making movies. I love, to be in a position where you can tell a story with not only the dialogue, but the visuals and the Foley and the music and the editing. It's such a great experience. And then there's a lot of crap out there that doesn't mean much. It's just for entertainment, but that's okay. Sure. But it's wonderful to make something that, it sits for a while and it takes a minute to get through. I was just enjoying a movie from 1971, Harold and Maude, about a young man who falls in love with an 80-year-old woman. And it's a love affair. And it's not about, it's really not about, what people see as a perfect couple.
Right.
But they were perfect for each other, and no one understood, but it helped the young man grow, and it helped the old lady move on to the next level. She needed that. But yeah, I think, when you talk about how music and art, it's timeless, and it's so important because some animals, maybe an octopus and a few different, they decorate. But most animals are just looking to eat, sleep, and mate and stay away from danger.
Right.
But we get a chance to be creative and take these experiences and mirror them and reflect. And like you said, do art when you have to, not because you need to get paid for it, because you need to get it out of your system.
Right.
And those great moments are so cool when they're captured on film or on stage, or even in a small setting with a couple people at a campfire making music or talking or telling stories or relating their relationships. And I still have a romance holding the drumstick and hitting something, and it's a very personal romance. And I don't need it. I'm alone when I do it. I'm sitting there hitting the drum, and no matter how big or small the stage is, I'm still sitting on the drum throne in front of a few drums. So if the stage is extra large and everyone's running around, I still don't. I'm sitting there, and it's a very personal experience, kind of like someone writing a book. They're alone in a room. And I feel this power that a great filmmaker or an artist or a musician, or even a fantastic chef, or an incredible athlete, they have a lot of time alone to perfect it.
Yeah.
But the public enjoys it, and it gets thrown out there. But you do have to spend some time alone to cultivate it and to fertilize it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And I think the Kenny Olsen fucking in me, why we get along so well. When you're talking about the tennis thing, and my first thought is, yeah, no matter how professional he may be, nobody wants to play with himself. He always needs someone else.
It's true.
You'd appreciate that, I'm sure, because he's just fucked up as I am. But
and you can't be too good of a player that you're never going to get the serve return. You want the guy to return the serve so he can rally.
Right. Dude. I remember in the day I saw Encino Man in the theater, and I was such a fan that I was like, get out of here. Because I do my research, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Well, Infectious Grooves was the day that Jane's Addiction broke up. Suicidal opened up for Jane's a bunch. So I got tight with Rob and Mike and the whole band.
So cool.
And then at the end of Jane's, we were making the Infectious Grooves record. And they showed up to the last show in Hawaii. And I got off stage, and it was bittersweet. My band just broke up. And then Rob Trujillo and Mike Muir were like, we're going on tour opening for Ozzy starting in 2 weeks. Want to come? And I thought, this is the best way to heal the blues, man.
Right.
I'm gonna join a touring band right now, because making the record with them was wonderful, but being on tour again, and that was a real gift they gave me to get back out there. And Jane's Addiction was surrounded by the Chili Peppers and the Fishbone, the Minuteman X. But when we got out with Infectious Grooves on the Ozzy tour, we had Zakk Wylde on guitar. We had a bunch of metal. Yeah, I had a whole new group of friends, and we had some fun opportunities like Encino Man and some other stuff that was a little out of the ordinary, but it was always such a great time hanging with those guys. And the combination of metal and funk and hip hop that they were doing, really ahead of the time, and I love the power and the funkiness. It was like something that was, it was perfectly timed, and it was, pre-Rage and, pre-Limp Bizkit. And it was before that, but it was still just on the edge, the tip of the iceberg. And kind of like Jane's Addiction being the fertilizer or the soil for Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Pumpkins. Infectious had that fertile soil that some of that funk metal grew out of. So it was a great experience being with those cats. And Rob Trujillo is such a monster on the bass. As a drummer, I'm always looking for a partner in crime, and man, amazing. God. Amazing.
I watched that movie in the theaters, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. And I was like, are you kidding me? Now I'm going to talk to the dude that told me so much shit. And then I dig a little deeper, because like I don't do the robotic like interview, like answer a question then I'll hit you with the next one. No, it's a conversation.
Of course, absolutely.
I like people to be able to like not answer the same old boring bullshit they've heard a bajillion times over. I want them to be them, and
absolutely,
if they got something they want to talk about, they'll bring it to the surface, and we'll for it, because then it's enjoyable. you know.
Yeah.
So I don't do that shit, but I do have some questions that I put out there so they know. I know who they are, what they do. I'm familiar. I'm either a
Yeah.
big time fan and I've done some research on shit I don't even know,
Mm.
or like I'm always familiar. I'm
Well,
so
during the Infectious Grooves tour, me and Perry were talking about Porn for Pyros, and we knew we were going to get to that point. But like I said, I really needed Infectious to help me heal from the band that just broke up. That was everything to me since I was 17. And then as soon as Porno started, we made our record, and then my brother passed. And so I had this weird parallel world where things are going great and then smash, and which way am I going to go? Am I going to go dark or am I going to stay light?
right.
And you have to accept both of them, like you said, but I always took the high road and said, I'm going to be creative and keep working. I'm not going to peel into like a little couch potato and disappear into like the nothingness.
Thank God.
So I always had these reminders that life is worth living when you surround yourself with music and art and good creative people that are dedicated people.
Right. It gives you an outlet where you can heal.
Absolutely.
You can get out of your system, you can heal, and you can move forward. You'll never forget, but you don't have to live in it. That's like you can heal, you can move forward and like remember, but
use that as the food that's going to keep you, satisfied to move on. And I don't like to eat the same thing over and over. I've got a few favorite things to eat, but then again, I want to try new stuff. And I think that's with life, and you might not like everything you taste, but it's important to go out there. I've never eaten that before. Let's try it. I've never drinking that. I've never been to that museum. I've never listened to the record. And I think that's what I can't wait for, post COVID is get out there and to experience not only, everything that I'm waiting to get back to, my favorite restaurant, my favorite museum, my favorite, whatever it is, but also try some new stuff because I'm so curious, man. I'm so hungry.
Right. The movie though, like how fun was that? Was that like, did you really get to like, was it kind of the same old shit music wise?
No, man. I think that, to be surrounded by new creative people, that's really what turns me on. So that's what happens when you say yes, you get that chance. When you say no, you just close the doors.
Right.
And so I was, and I still am a yes man. And I'm trying to figure out, new ways and opportunities. It's not about, it's cool because the do-it-yourself world right now, because I was very spoiled with Jane's Addiction. We had Warner Brothers that found us the best agent and the best manager, and they put us on every poster. But now you got to do it yourself. You really do. So this do-it-yourself movement is really awakening for young musicians and artists. And you know what? They're not going to do it for you. So go out there and grab it. And even if you fail, at least you tried. And so I was always the yes man. Let's try it, and sometimes people think that's not the right direction or the right choice. But there is no wrong choice, as long as you stand by your choice and stick to your guns.
There you go. So, I mean, you obviously know Kenny Olson very well.
Love him.
So you know that he can be somebody that most people might not fucking deal with too well. Which would explain why he cracked up large when I told him my agent, I think, fucking can't stand me. My agent loves me in a way, but at the same time, I'm kind of a dick. I'm a little bit of a Kenny in many ways. I have a fucked up sense of humor. And I hit up my agent at like 3 a.m. Like Kenny has his whole would you rather bullshit that he likes to hit people with. And I told him on the show, I said, I hit my agent at 3 a.m. with, hey man, why the fuck is there Batman shampoo but no conditioner Gordon? And the response I got was, I fucking hate you. Like, that's a fair response.
Yeah.
You fucking can't stand me. So you got a good agent, obviously, by the sounds of things. You had a pretty
Well, I like to stir the pot and be surrounded by creative people that, you know, have vision, and people that are honest and tell you, you know what, you might not respect their answer or even care for it or listen to it, but I like to know that they're speaking the truth
right.
and they're
Nobody
not
wants
bullshitting you.
right.
And you get a lot of bullshit in the business because people want to ride your coattails or they think you're going to ride theirs.
Right.
So, you know, the coattail riding is not going to you can't get away from it because everyone's kind of leaning on each other, and in networking, which I don't like that word, but I understand people like to I guess in a sense, hold hands and make a bigger circle,
Right.
you know? And so it's agents and managers and labels, you know, they think more about money than art, but they're in a creative business. So, you know, they do want to create a scene where people get together and enjoy themselves.
Right.
And then I always think, why charge $50 and get 100 people? Let's charge $10 and get 1,000 people.
Right. It's just
You know?
right. It's
You
just
know, so that's an art. You know, those are the arguments we have with the business people. But I'd rather have more people than less, and I'd rather have more people that it's not exclusive to rich people or exclusive to people that have, you know, the opportunity because they got the cash. Let's make it for everybody, man.
right. And Scott Page really kind of reflected that sentiment where him and I are business people. I have my own business, and we hit the nail on the head, I think, simultaneously with that same thought of, at the end of the day, I'd rather a lesser amount of money at once and repeat customers rather than somebody pays a lump sum and then you never hear from them again. It ultimately comes down to, you want the long-term business. It's just smart.
Yeah.
The
And you do want to get people, you got to give them what they paid for, but then again, you got to also not overprice art and music, man.
right. You want to give them a reason to come back.
You know, and sometimes you wonder why one sushi place is $20 for you know, tuna, and the other place is $8. It's the same slice of tuna. What's the difference? You know, I mean, they're just looking for a different clientele.
Right.
But we're here to feed, man. We're here to feed the soul.
Right.
And you know, you're not going to get 10,000 people staring at a Picasso, but you do get 10,000 people going to a rock show. But I think the Picasso piece is just as important as a rock show, you know?
It's a matter of how you market it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, make it accessible to people.
Yeah. And I really love when the museums are free.
Yeah.
I love it when it's a free rock show. And I know someone's got to pay for the security and the parking and the bathrooms. And yeah, you got to have some money to make it run smoothly and keep people safe. But, you know, you don't need to make a profit on everything you do.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes education is more important than the profit because, you know, it affects every other aspect of art down the road. Where, you
know, some promoters will say, well, it's going to be a high ticket price, and then, you know, we'll have a coupon for people that can't afford it. I'm like, come on, man, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
You know, just drop the ticket price, let everybody come, and let it spread like wildfire.
Exactly. I mean, shit. Not everything has to be a price tag.
Yeah. I mean, the quality, you know, when you buy a drum set or a guitar or you know, a car, you know, someone had to pick that price.
Right.
You know, you know, and then that's the price you pay. But, you know, I really think that if you can drop the price of musical instruments, you'll get more people to play them.
Right. Well, that's exactly it. I mean, look at guitar pricing. Jesus.
Exactly.
Like, there's so many people that want to learn, but to buy one, they're like, that's a rent payment.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is the funny thing. I had told Scott, that I back in the day, I worked for the Royal Conservatory of Music in Canada here, where like Paul Schaefer
Yeah.
from Letterman fucking graduated from, and shit like that, where it's like the least selling book out of all the books we published to teach people how to play instruments was guitar, because there's so many self-taught people.
Yeah.
But guitars are so fucking expensive.
Right.
You could have the most brilliant guitarist that may never touch one
Exactly.
because they can't afford to.
And then you've got all these incredible collectors that don't play, and they've got
Right.
the 1957
Right.
ball
It's tragic.
in a case that's sitting in a some storage place. It's like, come on, man, get it into the hands of a young player.
Right. It's so tragic.
The guitar wants to be played, man. It doesn't want to be locked up.
Looked at. Yeah. Like, it's fucking tragic. Why are those strings pulled so tight for you to look
I
at?
had a cool conversation with Paul Schaefer. How I told him that he's the most recognizable piano keyboardist of all time, even though he might not be the most famous. But so many people sitting on their couch that have seen SNL or Letterman or some Blues Brothers concert, they recognize him. And, how many keyboardists have changed the world, but they can get on a plane. You don't even know you're sitting next to the guy.
Right.
Schaefer, and he was like scratching his head. Yeah, it's nice to be recognized because it inspires people. When he gets on a plane, people are like, cool, that's that guy. I saw him on TV. It makes people feel good. It's more than music, it's a reaction. And it's great to have reaction, and especially in a positive force,
Yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite memory? Because I feel like I'm taking up so much of your fucking time.
Well, yeah, we're making dinner here, but favorite memory on stage?
Well, just in general in your career, like what is it that you would love for people to know? Because I don't want to take up a whole ton of your time. I respect.
Well, there's something great about the union of my band and Porno and Jane's and Infectious and that great union. But these moments that just happen out of the blue, when I have an afternoon getting to play with Mick Jagger or Ozzy or even Billy Idol, something that's kind of out of the ordinary, play a song with Geezer Butler from Sabbath, those things really change my direction. And they give me this spark, this B12 shot. And it makes you think, okay, I got to play with Mick, and everyone in the world loves the Stones or hates them, but we all know the Stones. I'm going to supply a drum beat for him for the afternoon. And that's a responsibility to make him move his ass.
Right.
And those moments really they're out of the ordinary. And that out of the ordinary little spontaneous moment sticks with me just as much as working with the same four guys for 10 years and achieving something massive. It's just as important to have these great surprises. And those surprises are really good for me. Just like bumping into an old friend. It's a surprise, and you didn't expect it. And it just feels so good to have these new unexpected experiences, especially as a musician, to be in a musician position to get this this conversation with someone that you may have listened to for years, like playing with Geezer Butler, one of the great bass players. I never thought I'd get a chance to. All of a sudden I'm in a room jamming with him, and he's got nothing to say about Sabbath, and I got nothing to say about my career. It's just what are we bringing to the table in the moment?
Right.
And I don't even think about his past. I'm thinking about that moment. How do I connect with his fingers? And that challenge to be in his brain for a moment and him in mine. Those kind of days really stick with me, and they are some of my favorite times.
That's amazing, man. I appreciate the hell out of your time. You've been very generous with it.
And back to you, man. I love talking to you. Let's do it again.
Hell yeah. Anytime you want, man. I'm always down. You've been a blast. You've been a pleasure. And like I said, I respect all my guests' time. I don't like to take up too much of
Oh,
it.
I appreciate that, man. And as soon as this crap is over and we can get on a plane and travel safely, I'm coming out and you're coming out and we'll hang out and have a beer and a laugh.
Hell yeah, man. Anytime. I am always down for that.
All right.
Thanks so much for your time, man, and enjoy your dinner.
Okay. Enjoy your afternoon. Thanks, man.
Have a good one, brother.
Okay. Bye.
So that badass legend was none other than Stephen Perkins. And like I said, in December, more than likely, if all things go well with the borders and all that crazy shit, in Montreal, I will be hanging out with Stephen Perkins, Kenny Olson from Twisted Brown Trucker, Kenny Aronoff, badass drummer, played for literally everybody you can imagine, and Scott Page from Pink Floyd, among others. So it's going to be a good time. As well as Eileen Shapiro, who is like a New York Times best-selling author and a badass agent. So yeah, if you can get out to Montreal, check it out. I'll be signing some shit and having a good time and hanging out with these fucking legends and partying. And, you know, what else do you do in December, right? Pretty cool Christmas gift to myself, you know. So if you can, come on out, man. Come hang with us. In the meantime, thanks for checking out the show. And don't forget, if you want to watch the videos of these shows, you can just go to the YouTube channel, the Tattness podcast, or the Tattness YouTube channel, whatever the fuck it's called. I don't even remember. I got so much going on. It's all things Tattness all the time, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But pretty sure. Anyways, man, I'll catch your asses later. Thanks for being awesome as usual and listening to the show. And I could have talked all day with that cat, but you gotta let a man have his dinner, you know what I'm saying? Alright, y'all. I'll catch your asses later.